Welcome. My name is Aoife, and I am now a success coach for sensitive women. I help sensitive women heal parts of themselves that we're going to talk about today, and align with their energy so they can magnetize more success in all parts of their lives, earn more, work less, you name it. So today I am so excited to have the amazing Kate Bartley, who is a life empowerment coach and author. And we're going to be chatting about her amazing new book, The Good Girl Prescription. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. I'm so excited to connect and just have a conversation with you about things that we're mutually passionate about.
Me too. The good girl problem.
We've lived it, yes?
So lived it, and just know we both just deeply know the power of unlocking it and the pain of existing within it in so many ways. So yeah, I'm just so excited for you to be here and for us to be sharing this wisdom and magic. Is there anything you want to add to your intro or introduce the book itself?
Sure, yeah. I think the reason I wrote this is that I started out as a healthcare professional, I'm a PT, and went through some of my own health challenges that weren't, I just wasn't finding solutions in the medical model and starting to feel, just having my own identity crisis, like who am I if I can't fix myself? And how can I, and so some of all of that insecurity and things were coming up and to the surface, and old wounds were manifesting, and just, my difficulty asking for help, and feeling alone in what I was going through, and yeah, not wanting to burden others, all those lovely things that we do that actually end up being roadblocks to our healing. The very things that I think sometimes our physical symptoms put us in a position of vulnerability that gives us an opportunity to heal more than just the body. And anyway, through my experience, and then that just led me into coaching. And through my work with women, I started seeing the same common factors that were blocking their ability to heal and to step into their healthiest selves, things like shame and guilt. And just, I was taught as a coach, if someone's not experiencing what they want to, if they're not moving forward and stepping into the things that they know they want to do in their life, there's something that feels at risk. And so I had to really start learning what is going on, what feels so at risk that these women can't go take a bath at night or go to the gym and swim or go to the YMCA and swim because they know they need to. And that's what resets their nervous system and that's what's going to help them heal. And they just could not follow through. There was just so much resistance. And so it just led me on a path of studying this more and more and understanding just some of the hidden factors that are blocking women from being able to, yeah, step into embodying their healthiest self and move forward in life and the things that they want to do. And even that right there, right? Like even, we can attest to that in the things, becoming a coach or working with clients or putting ourselves out on YouTube or writing a book. It takes a lot of courage. And so it's these same things that keep us held back and keep us small and keep us from stepping in and using our voices. Yeah. So that's kind of why I wrote the book.
100 million trillion percent. And when you are saying like healing and your healthiest self, I'm just thinking of like your most successful self and your
Yeah, for
highest
sure.
potential self. And so yeah, let's dig into that old like program. And like you just mentioned, some things I'm just like, yep, yep, yep. Like,
Mhm.
why is it such a risk to take a break or to let go of control or to rest for a minute? Because like in my experience, that has been, even though I was bedridden with uh, pain and illness, I still wasn't able to rest.
Yeah.
Resting, right? And so my whole journey of creation and stepping into my business and my full potential and an aligned life uh,
Mhm.
has been a journey of unpacking that world of feeling like pausing is a risk, feeling like caring for myself is a risk, feeling like knowing myself is such a risk. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
these, these, yeah.
What would you say is the risk? Like, what feels at risk to you when you think about that? Like, oh, I can just take some time off and give myself a break here. And
It felt so scary. Like it just didn't feel safe. And it felt
mm,
like if I let go, that I wouldn't produce like some kind of, like genuine
mhm.
like money, like I wouldn't produce,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't be taken care of, like
Mhm.
world, like the universe, money, life, like wouldn't take care of me unless I was in constant output, giving, 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 thinking of others, and to start to reverse that and give that energy and that time, my energy for myself has been a
Mhm.
big, big journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That word produce, right? Like that nails it. Like, and it's not that producing and flourishing and creating isn't a beautiful thing, but we get so like the narratives that go with that and what that means. Like it's held in the body, right? It's like if your time and energy aren't being used in a productive way, what's your value? And then is there security? Like, and so there's so much wrapped up in that, right? And so yeah, just really breaking that down and being able to get to the bottom of it and see if all the efforts, all the time, all the energy we're putting in is actually producing what we're going for, because oftentimes it's actually not, right? Yeah, yeah, it's so unconscious, but yet, when we've done the work and we've been working through it, now we're really aware of it, but it's still, we can still get trapped in it, can't we? Yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
so for me, also unpacking, I feel like the good girl, like cage, let's say, that I was in, um, like it meant that I was making decisions for my life based on auto drive.
Hmm.
And a really obvious part of that journey is I had used to like drink and party a lot, and I was like, this is bad girl. So
Hmm.
now I'm gonna go be good girl, and I'm gonna go to
Hmm.
college, and I'm gonna do all the things that society told me is a good girl.
Hmm.
And then that's gonna lead me to security, more security and
Hmm.
well-being.
Hmm.
And so I went off on my merry way, packed my little bag, and went to college, university, and I worked really hard and got myself a first class honors. And then I went, let's take this further. Let's study law. There's no better good girl thing than this to bring
Right.
to bring security, right? I went
Yeah.
and I was like, God, this is, not only was my body and producing a lot of signals, but for me, it wasn't aligned, right? It was touching on things I cared about, but it wasn't deeply authentic. And I didn't
Hmm.
know, it was like there was two options: either look for safety in numbing everything out with like drugs and alcohol, or go into
Hmm.
the extreme.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was none of it was me, like, and I didn't have any access to that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, like that there one of the chapters at the end of my book is really looking at how the good girl and the bad girl are two sides of the same coin. That we're really both coming from a place of just trying to seek security, just trying to find safety in our attachments and safety in the world, and how we can swing from one extreme to the other, but we're more alike than different, and that it's all rooted in the same stuff. And if you try really hard to be the good girl and it's working and you're getting the affection and the approval and you're feeling secure in that, you're going to keep doing it. But if it's not working and it's not ever enough, psh, never mind, I'm just going to go off and be the bad girl now, because that doesn't work. And so, and I love how you shared the opposite, where you started. I'm guessing when you were younger, you were not the bad, you weren't acting out as the bad girl. But yeah, I hear countless times, like in a family where one woman is, one girl becomes the good girl in the family and one becomes the black sheep, right? And because, again, as long as is what you're doing to get the approval and attention and um, of mom and dad, if it's working, you're going to keep doing it. And if it's not, you're not. And that's just basic survival, right? Like we just do what we need to do to get the connection we need, to feel okay in the world. And I think my first thing I want us people to understand and ourselves to understand is just to have so much compassion for that, to have so much understanding and to stop judging each other because, the good girl's gonna inwardly probably judge the girl that she swore never to be like never do that because that's not good, right? And where the bad girl might be like, gosh, she's such a goody two shoes. Like we just judge each other and it's just not necessary because we're all just trying to achieve the same thing. But neither one of them is our true self. Neither one of them is that self that can come back home to security, to come back home to a place where it's safe to be our authentic selves and move in the world without trying to prove ourselves or push ourselves or, but yeah, we know all that, but our nervous system still holds the other stories, doesn't it? And so it's just, I know in your work, just learning how to work with the body and understand what's arising. And if we're in the energy of fear or if we're in this energy of just abiding in safety and flow, right? Yeah. And that's a continual process of, it's not like we just stay there. It's like, oh, here I am, and I'm in this pattern again. I'm just going to stop and appreciate that for a moment and then see if I can resource myself to settle back in. But yeah. Mm.
The gift we have now of getting forever getting to know ourselves authentic.
Yeah.
So tell me like what symptoms show up when you have the good girl issue.
Yeah, so I think it can manifest a lot of ways. I see some women where it's mostly anxiety and depression and some of the emotional aspects of it, overwhelm. But over time, it will manifest into the body because we cannot stay in overwhelm without it turning into what Dr. Amy African calls trauma physiology, because the body's going to go into a shutdown. And so you're going to end up, exhaustion turns into illness. Exhaustion starts, you're just chronically sick, you keep getting sick. And when you get sick, you feel relief because now you can, well, for some, so there's two different stories here. Some are like, oh, thank God I can call in sick to work. Like I have a valid reason to rest, right? Um, and so we almost need illness to give ourselves permission to rest. Like if you went through COVID and you were like, oh, thank God I can stay home, there's a chance you may be dealing with this. But for others, like you were talking about, sometimes even in the rest, we can't relax because it doesn't feel safe to rest, and that sucks. That's even worse. But so in the body, I think I see that a lot where it's just starting to affect the immune system. I think a lot of autoimmune stuff comes out of this where you're having a chronic inflammation. And yeah, a lot of the tension that we hold when we put unrealistic expectations on ourselves and we're trying to meet everyone else's needs and we have no bandwidth and we're just pushing ourselves beyond our capacity, trying to maintain this strong woman image, it starts to, we're stuck in that place where our stress responses stay on, right? Like we're never coming up and then coming back down and not having that flexibility we need. And so we start having lots of tension and migraines and um, all kinds of symptoms can come out of that, right? It's very different for different people. For
Totally.
me, I think it was like, some of my pain, I think, was just from pushing myself and overextending myself, and not caring and respecting for my body and doing more than I really could and doing too much of it. But I think over time, when I started really struggling and having illness and cancer and different things like that, I started getting into a place of heightened nervous system response where my symptoms just started magnifying. And so it was just everything, like you name it.
And tell me this, what other they're like the physical body symptoms, which
Mhm.
I've been there 100%. What other like life symptoms? Like, do you see the good
Mm,
show up in relationships or life decision,
yeah,
money or whatever?
yeah, lots. And to me, really, that's been the bigger work for me. And I think it is for most. Like you know, that like just yeah, being able to make decisions, trusting yourself with your decisions, right? It's like we're so trained to look for external validation because we learn to just read the room and to nurture everybody and make sure people are happy with us so we can relax and be at peace. And that affects our decision making, right? If I think about doing something, but then I see somebody else displeased with that or not validating that, then I'm going to second guess my decision. And so we can get really caught in a loop of constant second guessing and not trusting our decisions. And that is really exhausting. Yeah, really anxiety promoting. And then we start shaming ourselves for not being more confident or being able to make decisions, right? Like I dealt with that in my business for so long, just not being able to get clear on a niche and website stuff. And I dealt with all that in this book writing process. And for me, that turns into what I call a freeze response, where I start shutting down. Like I just start procrastinating or not moving forward or, yeah, just getting stuck in my head and over analysis and overthinking. And then that's no fun. So we just numb out, right? So all of that. What else did you say? Feel free if like something pops up for you as I'm thinking about this.
Like,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, relationally, right? Like, just attachment insecurity stuff, right? Like we can be doing great and having a good day, and somebody comes in the room and they're not in a good mood, or they're upset, or something's going on with them, and we feel that so deeply that it pulls us into their mood, and we've got to correct it or fix it so that we can feel at peace, which is basically codependency, right? But it's that early learned thing of trying to feel safe in the world in our attachments and taking on responsibility for somebody else's mood and happiness. And instead of helping our relationships, it actually can really sabotage them because it's like somebody else can't just have their experience and be in a bad mood without it affecting us. And so it's almost like we can't just sit back and let them have their experience. Does that make sense? And so it can create a lot of conflict in relationships. Yeah.
it makes all the sense. And like I'm just getting so many like ping, 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 ping aha moments as you're sharing, and I'm thinking me and relationships. Oh my God. I so many things to share about how this good girl. So I felt like if I really loved and cared about someone, like it doesn't have to be a friend or a romantic relationship or family or whatever, I felt then I was responsible for
Mhm.
for their like everything about their emotional world mostly probably and anything else I could
Yeah.
possibly take on. I would take on. And I thought that that was connection, really. And so
Mhm.
then I would be in this place of like overextension and holding other people's weight or whatever. And
Mhm.
then I would also just have this, so I'd be self abandoning myself completely.
Mhm.
And I would then have this ginormous amount of resentment building in me, like just building and building and building and building. And it would inevitably, at some point, I would crack. I would crack. I
Yeah.
had no skills whatsoever, minus skills to take care of myself within a relationship. I'm surprised
Mhm.
I actually had so many friends in the first place because um, I was just self-abandoning so much. So then I would explode or I would withdraw.
Mhm.
And that's all I knew. And deep down, all we all want and need is real authentic connection and to feel like we can be our full selves. But for me, there was the risk. Remember, we were talking about taking risk.
Mhm.
The risk of using my voice authentically was huge for me because in the
Yeah.
past, the only experience I had of using my voice to like really speak up about myself was were the points where I exploded and I hurt myself and others. And then
Yeah.
I would retreat and I wouldn't do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I was I'm leading a group of women through my book right now, and we were sitting around the table, and that was the very conversation we were having yesterday morning is, well, how do you like what do you do when you're trying to learn to find your voice and you're trying to express yourself authentically and you get backlash, and then yeah, it's not a corrective experience, and so then it's like, whoop, never do that again. And so we can't heal. We can't learn how to find our voices because we keep it's kind of like what you were talking about with the good and bad girl. We just swing to the opposite where I'm going to say what I need to say, right? And then it doesn't go so well. And so, yeah. I think that's a really common experience. And we just get stuck there and frustrated and feel hopeless, right?
Totally. And all of that resentment, we feel trapped in this cage. I felt
Mm,
trapped in this cage. How can I step out in the world and find opportunities for growth, for success, for healing, whatever it is, if I'm stuck in this cage? And for me, the most incredible part of my own transformative journey has been finding freeing up my voice.
mhm,
That has been a huge journey, and it has been, I mean, it has been messy. Um, but now when I hear myself just speak or protect my boundaries or say no, or say yes,
mhm.
and I feel it flow so much more. Um,
Yeah.
that is the greatest gift. That is better than, anything that I could dream of. And it sounds so simple. I don't know how I was in such a cage.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it. I felt it deep down, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love you sharing that. And I love that you're just sitting here like running your YouTube channel now. Like, how cool is that, right? I also think it's cool. Like, I think for each of us, our journeys are different and finding ways to use our voice, but respecting our need for safety. Like, what's the first step we needed to have a corrective experience? And instead of just showing up on a Facebook Live or standing up and talking in front of 500 people, like, we find these small steps. And for me, it was in writing. Like, I think first it started with like just writing for myself with my, between me and God, or just like being able to feel the safety of that. And then starting to, and even like with my husband, I would write first. I would draw up a letter first. I would communicate through an email first and then have a conversation. Because every time I tried to enter a conversation before I did that and processed it myself, it never went well because I couldn't express myself enough to be understood. And so just that journey is, I think, different for each of us and just finding our way forward in it. But, as you're talking about it, like you're holding your throat and I'm like, oh, that's just so familiar for me. Like just even that way you grabbed it. It's like, oh, I know what it feels like to feel restricted, to feel paralyzed. I was just recording an audio of the book I wrote, the chapter on expression and repression. And the chapter before that was the freeze response. But I think that shows up in our voices. Like we just like um, one of my first chapters, I talk about my experience where I came out of this movie called La La Land. Have you ever seen that? And the lady was sitting there, the actor was like typing and writing by this open window, and something about what she was doing was just like stirred a deep desire in me that I'd not been allowing myself to follow, which was writing. And I just started boohooing in the theater, and I'm like covering my eyes. Obviously, I can't let somebody see me crying. And so I have a story about that in the book, but it what talks about the difficulty it was for me to articulate to him what was going on inside me and express my desires. It was so like just blocked, like I could not say it. Like, and I really think it was like shame. Like it was embarrassing to admit my desires. Like who am I to be able to say that I could do what she's doing. And it's so like it would burden somebody else, it would take away from my children. It would, like I've just got to keep going and be responsible and do what I'm doing. And that's not something I should be asking for, or have permission to have time for. So many things that can get in the way of us, like saying our truth or what we need to say. So that feeling, just again, like you going like this, just, oh, it takes me right back to that memory.
it's
Yeah.
huge. I want to say that sharing my story and chatting with people on YouTube is one thing, but the hardest breakthroughs I've had in my voice is like what you're sharing, saying to people, no, I don't want to, I don't feel well enough, or I don't want to be overextending myself anymore. When you have been trained, you have literally all you've known is your job as this like sensitive, intuitive, or empathic woman is to overextend and give all your energy away for
Yeah.
free. And you've lived like that, and everyone has expected that. And for you to start to cut off that supply, that has been the most terrifying,
Hmm.
earth-shattering change for me. But it just got to a point where I'm like, I can't not say
Yeah.
this anymore because my self-worth has just grown to a point where I can't harm myself. anymore in favor of upholding this dynamic where
Yeah.
my energy is for free for
Hmm.
anyone, and I don't mean like, oh, everyone has to pay to be around me. I mean, it's where if it's not being reciprocated.
Yeah, because we feel it deep down when we're not respecting our own energy, we're just communicating a signal to our younger selves that you have no value. Your time and energy don't mean anything, And that's the message we send over and over again, and it starts to create a lot of inner turmoil, doesn't it? Yeah, and you were talking earlier about two words jumped out at me that you used. First of all, connection, right? Like that's the core of it, right? Like that's what we're all seeking. And I think we forget that these patterns that, like you said, they have such a grip on us. Um, they started when we were so tiny, you know? And so when we're feeling in the grip of that, we have an opportunity to go back to our younger selves and help her find her way forward into freedom. And so that connection, I think, starts within us. Like how do we reconnect here? That's where we build security. But we were taught to build security outside of ourselves, right? And so I think that's where a lot of us miss the mark and just learning how do we tune back in and connect with ourselves and resource ourselves in safety and security and speak to our younger selves in the way that she needed so that she feels free enough to move forward. And that self-abandonment piece that you talked about, um, yeah, like that's what's happening every time we don't speak up or we don't or we overextend ourselves or we push through pain. Like if we can just start imagining the little one within us that we're self-abandoning every time. And what does that do for our self-trust? I'm like, we have to start seeing it as self-leadership. We have to start seeing it as, I grew up in the Christian community and we talk about, being Jesus to the world. Well, we got to start being Jesus to ourselves. Like we have to come into that place of bringing love to ourselves and bringing healing and wholeness and restoring. So I think I don't know, like it's such a, like you were talking about the heart of that. Do you ever think like, it has been a hard journey. This is not an easy road. It's much easier to go, just go put some ice on it. Like, I don't want to invite you into this. It's challenging work. But gosh, like if it's not what we need, um, there's nothing greater than to start to feel that deeper security within yourself and to feel more aligned within yourself, like you're talking about, like instead of being at war. Um, and what does that do for our relationships, right? Yeah.
And sister, and when you were using the term like self-leadership, and I was thinking of sovereignty,
Mm.
self-sovereignty, which has been the past, I'd say 3 years, that has been the biggest breakthrough for me. I was like, why when I make a certain decision is everyone getting so upset when like I'm really seeing this decision is just what's best for me. And I
Mhm.
started to, yeah, just really start to see that all around me. And I think that at some point with this good girl program, we enter into this world where we are transactional. This is what I was doing anyway. I would offer up my overextension of my energy, and there was like some sort of contractual transaction in all of my relationships,
Mhm.
and then that was just leaking out all of my energy. And it meant that I wasn't really able to access my own health, my
Yeah.
own vitality, or yeah, like creative solutions to my problems. Like everything was blocked. Everything was blocked when I
Mhm.
was like
Mhm.
in this contractual, transactional world, just like leaking out my energy, not valuing myself, really not valuing my energy. So shifting out of that has been, yeah, my biggest transformation and some of the most hardest conversations I have
Mm,
ever, ever had. But I think once I have had those like hardest, scariest conversations, now I've really like broken the seal and I
mhm.
can have more of those easier. It's like anything, like once you do it once,
Yeah.
and like, but I just can't underestimate how, first of all, how hard and scary
Hmm.
it is when you
Yeah.
start to shift into valuing yourself rather than the transactions you've been involved in. And then second of all, how good it feels. How good,
Yeah.
like you could just, I'm like, there is nothing worth more to me than this feeling of breaking
Mhm.
free from that
Yeah.
cage and finding that deeper connection within myself.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting when you say that? Like, I know that to be true. Like, that's been my most healing work. Like, it's been the biggest shift for me. And it's just so hard to put it into words to explain it to people. But in my business, I think I've just focused so much on staying in the physical lane with my background as a PT and thinking, it's not until we crack or we break or we're hurting so bad. Like I went to the dentist the other day and they wanted to charge me $3,500 for a root canal. And I'm thinking, yeah, what a picture of like when we hurt, then we'll spend money and invest in ourselves and get somebody to fix. So I kept staying in this lane and lately I've just been going, wait a second, that really wasn't my greatest pain. It really wasn't. The physical stuff was never my greatest pain. Why do I think women don't care about freedom? Like they do. It matters. It is what we want. And that deep sense of connection that we desire and to be in a place of empowerment and alignment, like that's huge. So I don't know why I think I have to go through the other way because it's funny every time I do have a woman that maybe calls me with some physical stuff. When I send a prep form and they fill it out, they don't talk about any of that stuff. That's not what they're struggling with the most. It's what we're talking about.
I
And
went
so
through
yeah.
Totally. I went through a phase. I did like an Instagram course and they were like, do this, do that, whatever. I was like doing lots of surveys, polls in my stories.
Hmm.
And every time people said women, most of my, people I serve, they said they just want to feel peace. And you cannot feel peace when you are in this cage within yourself where you cannot feel connection and you think your transactional relationships are like just feeding you connection when they're not really. They're just making that
Yeah.
good girl feel safe for a second. And you're like, there's a void in you, there's blocks that are blocking your full potential and opportunity. And there's like a void and a hunger in you that you just can't satisfy. And,
Mm.
and you just,
Here's what's funny. So from my perspective, growing up in a Christian community, which I'm still a part of, but a lot of the work that I do is with Christian women, and this conversation and the language that we use around it is so foreign and almost really, really risky and scary for them to use this kind of language. Like even how you used the word sovereignty earlier, or just self-leadership, like or self-trust. Those words are like that is like almost hypocrisy language. Does that make sense? And so because we're taught, but it's interesting because it really aligns completely with our beliefs. It's just the language messes people up where we think, oh, we've got to, like I had a lady the other day, it was in my group that was praying for direction in her life and what to do after retirement and just kind of waiting and praying and waiting for God to show her. And I was like, well, when do you like, what if you started just feeling it out? Like, what if you started noticing where you come alive and trying and exploring things and like that God made your body and he uses your body to communicate. Like to just like we have this habit of external seeking, external validation, and we do that with God or the universe or whatever we want to call it. We learn that and we're just sitting back waiting and then we get mad and angry if we don't feel supported or if it's not happening or our cries aren't being heard or answered. And we feel it's just such a powerlessness feeling, such a helpless feeling. And so it's such a passion of mine to teach women how to come back home and recognize that the spirit lives within them, in their body. Like it's not out there, it's right there. I'm not saying there's not a bigger force than just us that doesn't come in and support us, but it happens through people. Like, right? Through other people reflecting that divinity and that love and that goodness back to us and meeting us there. And but we're waiting for God to come around and rescue us instead of receiving love from someone else who's holding his image. Like it's just, we just get all the language messed up and we get lost in it. I think some of the most powerful learning for me is when I started understanding the nervous system. Like you'd think as a PT, I would have already got that, but I didn't get how it connected to where I was at emotionally, right? And all the stories that our body holds that take us in. When I started seeing, oh, this connected state, this place where my nervous system is feeling safe and the world looks safe, and I can connect and engage with people, and I can rest and do my business in a healthy way and give myself plenty of time. That's a nervous system state. And that's what we as Christians call the kingdom of God. That's what we call abiding. That's what we call, heaven on earth. And like it just was so cool to see it through the lens of the nervous system and to go, hang on a second. If we're feeling this, it's not because God's abandoned you, it's because fear just entered the picture, like, and that's human. You're human. There's like when we can get rid of all the stories about somebody not caring for us or being abandoned and recognize, oh, that's that my body is in this place where it's perceiving everything as threatening and now I feel abandoned. Like, does that make sense? Like, yeah.
Makes all of the sense. And
Yeah.
like, actually, I think there's been a shift in like human consciousness where I think, and I don't know much about astrology, but there was like Copernicus or some other time where we were always looking outward, outward to God, outward to doctors even, and outward,
Mhm.
like putting other people on pedestals and looking outward. And then there was a shift, and this time it's going inwards, like even like psychological theories or religious, everything was like a theory to write about, an abstract theory. And now it was more, it was everything was the head, the mind, everything was the
Mm,
mind, right?
mm,
This way,
mhm,
information. And now it's gone into the heart. It's like
mhm,
we can't, this is not working. We're not feeling connected because we're not feeling connected here.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so unsatisfying and so disempowering and so deregulating when we are looking outward all the time, like you said, and we abandon ourselves in favor of someone else saving us. And then it's just constantly unsatisfying and blocking ourselves, and nothing's working.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like when we can make that shift, and I believe in God and I believe in all kinds of out like thing powers to be that can help us and support us
Mhm.
with us and co-create with us. But
Yeah.
when you can build that trust within yourself, shifting that whole inner world, then that can ripple out into your connection with God or your angels or
Absolutely.
your world, whatever your world is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's overcoming the risk and the fear because of the language around it, right? And getting to a place where we can find it. Oh, wait a second. That is true for me. I do get that. Like, yeah. Like I can feel, and again, it's going back to that feeling state. Like our heads, anytime we've gone through hard things, we get more and more in our heads, right? Like we get disconnected from the body and our felt sense. And I think that's just protectiveness, right? That's our minds just keeping us safe in the world and analyzing the world and controlling, and that's where perfectionism gets in there and all of that stuff. And so just learning how to come back to the body and the felt sense and finding the connection we've been looking for all along, and then realizing that we're not alone, that we are one, and being able to sit across you and resonate and connect with you, and that's how God works, I think, um, just learning to be that for each other. But we got to do our own work to get there. Otherwise, we just stay separated in our own suffering, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
actually, going back to your book, I shared on Instagram your post you shared from your book. It was a chapter and it said the real cost of praise. And
Mm,
that just really hit me because that has affected me in my bad girl, good girl world because, like you said, when I was, decided like whatever, this isn't working, I'm gonna be a bad girl and not care about any of this. And then I just flipped into okay, I'll do the things that you're supposed to get praised for. And I really went for
Right.
that. And neither brought me connection to myself, neither brought me deeper wisdom,
Mhm.
neither brought me
Mhm.
growth. Um, but yeah, so that really, really resonated with me. Is there any other part in your book that you or want to share?
Yeah, well, I'll speak to that for a minute because I think that's so important to land on because I don't think we realize that a good thing can become a bad thing. Like that, just like any habit can become addictive. And if we've learned to connect by through somebody's approval, right, or appreciation or praise, that's a huge reward hit. Like, like I have several things in the book about the way I've trained my dogs and, good girl, honey, and you give them a treat. And that's how we learn behavior, right? And but it can get us stuck in patterns of self-abandonment and really begin to backfire and hurt us. And I even think I say a line where, we praise this in our culture. We praise strong women that are doing this. And so we're not only having to work on breaking that habit ourselves, we're in a culture that reinforces it. We're in churches that reinforce it. And so it's so hard to break free from it because everybody, when I was going through my greatest burnout, and I was having people come up and pat me on the back. Oh, Kate, thank you so much. We so appreciate you. I finally got to a place I was like, that doesn't make me feel better. Stop. Just stop. Like stop appreciating me for the thing that is making me sick. And I have a line in there is like, self-sacrifice leads to death. It's a natural law of cause and effect. And so we cannot be appreciating and praising these people and writing these obituaries about them and highlighting all of this and giving them employee awards and then praying for them when they're sick because it's very contradictory because that's the very thing that could be making them sick, in my opinion. So
And
it's
this
yeah,
self-sacrificing woman is a pandemic. It's like an illness.
it
And,
is. It is. And it's tragic. It is not something to be praised anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I'm single woman, I'm not engaged and I'm childless, but if I tomorrow post a picture of me and a man, and I say, hey, I'm in a relationship, or if I say I'm engaged or say I'm married,
Mm.
I'm gonna get so much praise. I'm gonna get so
Finally, you're moving forward in your life.
but
Yeah.
when you break free, and not that that is a good or bad thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. But when you're instead, or as well as, or whatever, breaking free from the good girl, it can just like it's such a brave and courageous thing to do because nobody throws a party for you when you break your first big bet.
Mm.
Nobody throws a parade for you. No one gives you 100 likes on Facebook when you first start pulling back your energy for yourself.
Mm.
Not only is that the necessary portal, I'm sure, to really solidifying and anchoring in your own sovereignty and self-led energy, but it's like I went through such a detox. It was like proper detox from all those bits of validation that I used to get, posted on Facebook. I passed my law exams, like 400 likes, whatever. You're just like, oh, and then there's nobody there. There's nobody
Mm.
there when you break your
Yeah.
boundary, I mean, sorry, when you have a breakthrough and you put up your first boundaries
Yeah.
is what I meant to say.
Yeah. Wow.
So
And first, when you first started saying that, I was like, oh, like, yeah, well, that's what we need to start doing. Let's start throwing a party. And then I thought, but dang it, that'll just reinforce, like, I don't know.
yeah,
Like I think that's part of the work, right? Is sitting in the crickets, sitting in the crickets. That's like I wouldn't be here about to publish this book if I hadn't had to navigate that re deep rejection and that place that you sit in when there's crickets, you know. And yeah, it's not fun journey, but it is worth the work, in my opinion. It is
It is.
because yeah, like I'm so thankful that you've done the work, or I wouldn't have met you.
I was gonna say, I think we have our own, like when you start to have some, friends and community that are doing this work, we can like praise each other through connection, as in cheer each other on, like you guys did for me so much, like in the group, that we're in, and just like reflecting back our power
Yeah.
to each other. Like that is really, really powerful. I think as more people start to do this in the world, then there will start to be little parties, and but they're connection
Yeah.
parties, right? For
Yeah. That just
different
gives me
boundaries.
so much hope. That gives me so much hope. I yeah, just visualizing that and just a world with more connection, more reflecting what we need to reflect, you know, things that bring us into healing and wholeness and union. You know, we're in a really divided world right now, and gosh, do we need that, you know? So, yeah, it's a beautiful vision. And I do think that's the deeper why behind my book. Like, I think when we're such an independent people, an independent country, and we get these, the good girl really gets into patterns of self-sufficiency and independence and just suffers in silence. And, you know, all the patterns that we have around, or the women around us are caught in the same stuff. And so we're not there for each other. Our bandwidth isn't there. We can't even show up and be there for each other. And then when we do show up, we're showing up and trying to fix it, or we're projecting our own stuff onto it. And it's just not helpful to each other, you know. And so the more we break free and heal, the more we can actually be there to connect and reflect and encourage the things that need to be encouraged. Like it heals the old wounds, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I feel like we could just talk
Yeah.
forever. We just started four. I mean, on the hour. So it feels like we started like 5 minutes ago.
I know. This is a deep topic. Yeah. Yeah. But
So, is there any last like chapters from your book that you want to quote from, or something that you feel is very important that's like arisen today to do with your book? And of course, also at the end, I'll share all the information about your book underneath.
sure. I could just read this quote. I had pulled up some of the quotes that I'm working on my Canva right now. I'll just read this one real quick. It says, "We must come back home to the truth and goodness of who we inherently are, shedding the good girl persona that has become too heavy for us to wear. It's an invitation to reclaim our birthright, to need and receive, find our voices, trust our body's innate wisdom, and live in alignment with God's heart for us. It's a prescription for our healing." So that kind of summarizes the book. Yeah, there's lots of other women's stories in there and just beautiful expression of our voices. And I pray that as women read it, that they just feel deeply seen and deeply understood and just grow into a more compassionate relationship with themselves that begins to set them free. So that's my hope. Mhm.
I love it. It's so beautiful. And that quote really just like touches on everything we shared in this talk. And I too I really feel passionate about the empowerment of women. I feel like women, when women are holding their own energy in that deeply compassionate and generous place from overflow, that the world, the whole world and everyone included in that has more of an opportunity to
Yeah.
feel too.
And that speaks to the thing, like sometimes our greatest fear is that our choices of what we do to step into this are going to be selfish or take away from somebody else. But as we've been working with women, know that the opposite of that is true, that it brings such a gift to the world. You have more to give to the world from that place, not less. Yeah,
That's the big shift, isn't it? That
it
is
is. It is. So,
amazing. Beautiful Kate. Thank you so much. I'm so just in awe of you for putting this work forward and thank you for making yourself visible and for using freeing your voice and using, bringing yourself back home to your own energy and for valuing yourself, because when you value yourself, you can then reflect other people's value around you and just lift everyone else up. I think we've all just been through enough. And we're just, this is what we need, is this more women valuing themselves and putting that out into the world. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me and just, yeah, the conversation. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. So I will leave the information underneath in this description for anyone to buy your book or get in contact with you. And if anyone wants to book a free call, they can use the link for a potential activation call with me if you're looking to unlock your potential as a sensitive woman and amplify your success. And yeah, just such an honor to know you, Kate, and we will talk again.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.